Welcome to the On the Hook podcast. For the first ever episode of On the Hook, a podcast idea that we at United have during this kind of crazy pandemic time, we thought we'd give something a try. And this is going to be our first attempt with a gentleman that I think everybody in the industry knows and commonly refers to as the Godfather of repossessions. I like to refer him to as the Godfather of repossessions, and that's Bob Wilson, the president of United Recovery and Remarketing. For many of you out there that are going to be listening to this podcast, we're going to be sending it out to you. Bob is absolutely on the Mount Rushmore of pioneers in the repossession world. There's a number of his best friends that I would include up there, and we'll probably save that as a topic for another podcast someday. Who the exact Mount Rushmore of pioneers in the repossession business would be, but Bob Wilson absolutely belongs up there. So Bob, thanks for joining me today.
Pleasure to be here.
All right, so we're going to dive in. This podcast may ruin every other podcast that we do because it may be so entertaining and there may be so many parts to it that trying to get guests on like you might be a disaster after this. So
it may be the opposite, Paul. They may line up and say, I can do better than that for sure.
So, Bob, everybody's pretty proud of where they come from, right? You know, I'm really proud of Kansas City. I'm all about Kansas. Your son breaks out in hives if he leaves Memphis, Tennessee, and his tours of the city are legendary. So I want to go back to the Bronx, New York, because I don't think there's anybody else that's more proud of where they come from than you in the Bronx, New York. And in full transparency, I've had the pleasure of getting to tour the Bronx, New York, although there was 4 feet of snow on the ground that day. And you were still driving like a bat out of hell through the alleys and stuff, I maintain. But let's go back to the Bronx, right? I want to go back to your recollection of the Bronx because I think everybody has, I have this fantasy world built in my head of what it was like to live in the Bronx back when you were a kid, right? So, talk about, your street, your house. We're going to get into some early influences and stuff. So tell me what it was like. Cause I picture Frankie Valli playing in the background or music from the Jersey Boys as you walk out of your house to go to school every day. So talk about the Bronx early on, if you can.
Well, I never thought about you saying that, but I can remember being 12 or 13 years old, and we had thought we were Frankie Valli because our voices sounded better in the hallways, and we all lived in these apartment buildings, and we had hallways, so we'd go in there. It was better than the shower, and we would start singing and harmonizing, and we thought we were great until we went outside. That ended that career.
Really? So you had friends that would actually sing in the hallways together to like that kind of music, like the Jersey Boys?
I was one of them.
Really? Did you think you had a career in singing ever until you went outside?
Absolutely not. Matter of fact, I'm going to veer off subject. My best friend lives in Nashville, and we became best friends many, many years ago. And we were at church, and we were the choir was singing, and of course the parishioners were singing. And he was sitting in front of me, and when the song was over, he turned around. Only met me one time before. And said, by God, you got the worst voice I've ever heard. And
is that what he said to you?
Exactly what he said. His family and my family were right there. And he just turned around and he said, you're killing my ears. You got the worst voice I've ever heard.
I maintain that I'm a few nodules on my vocal cords away from sounding like Louis Armstrong. So I'm really close to having a secondary career that might make me famous.
Yeah, I heard about your dancing, so you can sing and dance.
We'll say the dancing for another time. So Bob, tell me. So I love the stories you tell about when you were a kid and sneaking into Yankee Stadium. What was it like to be able to grow up during an era of when baseball was romanticized? And tell me how that worked about sneaking into games like that.
Well, when we were doing it, it was really no big thing. We would get up a little, it was at 11 o'clock. Most games back then were started at 11. So we get up early, get on the train, go down. It'd be four to six of us. And we thought we were sneaking into Yankee Stadium. We each had a quarter probably from our parents. But every third inning, on every game we snuck into, which was probably over 50, the police, the Irish cops would turn around, turn their backs towards us, and gave us a minute to run in. Now, we thought we were sneaking in, but what really happened is they were letting us get in after the third inning.
That's
So it was
incredible.
great.
That's
You know,
incredible.
a quarter would last all day, 5 cents for a Coke, 10 cents for a hot dog with mustard and sauerkraut. For those of you who don't know what sauerkraut is, it goes great on a hot dog.
So, like, what were some of the players that you got to watch back in the day? Like, who were some of the, like, who were your heroes back then?
Well, my hero was really a Giant player, Willie Mays. But
No kidding.
that was the Polo Grounds before they became the bad guys and they moved out to San Francisco. And then I became a Yankees fan, but I was first a Giant fan. Willie Mays, I thought still think is the greatest player that ever played the game. But I could watch Mantle, Maris, Berra,
Unreal.
Whitey Ford, Orlando Cepeda. You go down the list of them. They were all there. And when you're watching them and you're a kid, it was a big deal. But they were just players, and we all played baseball. That was the only sport we knew in New York, in the Bronx. We never knew football field, never even heard of soccer or hockey. It was baseball, and that was it. Everybody loved baseball.
So that leads me into another topic real quick, and we're going to get back to the Yankees real quick. But you took me to a distinct school. I don't remember what PS it was. You took me to a distinct school where you used to play stickball. And you showed me where the batter stood, where the pitcher stood, and how far you could hit the ball. Can you recollect what PS school that was?
Oh, sure.
And how good was your stickball game?
Well, first, I think I was the best stickball player in the city of the Bronx. I really thought I was good. Yeah. But the school was PS 67.
Oh my gosh, you remember that?
How could I ever forget it? Then I went to junior high school 44, but that's another story. PS 67, you would draw a box on the wall, come back about 120 feet, and you could play this with just two guys, the pitcher and the guy way out still in the schoolyard as the outfielder. And you'd throw balls and strikes, and we had to, if you hit a grounder, pass, it got a single. If you hit a double, that dropped in. If you hit it over the fence, it was a triple. And if you hit it over this person's house, it was a home run.
Yeah.
That's how we did it.
How many kids would play? Like, would you get a bunch of you on a weekend or in the summertime? Did you play like a lot of it?
In the schoolyard, there could be anywhere from 4 to 6. But when we played on the street, we'd play neighborhoods. We played for 10 cents or 15 cents.
Seriously? You would be betting back then?
Oh, sure. Yeah, that's when it all started. My gambling career started by pitching coins against the curb and playing stickball.
See, that's the romanticize of the Bronx, New York that I have. Like, that's what I picture when you talk about it. You know?
While you're saying it, I want to say, do you notice every time you say the Bronx, you say the Bronx?
I do.
The Bronx?
I do.
It's the only place in the country where you put the in front of the name.
That's absolutely true.
Just a little bit of trivia for you.
That's that I'm thinking of other cities in my head: Los Angeles, San Francisco, Chicago. You don't do that. You just do the Bronx. You don't say the Manhattan. You don't say
the Brooklyn. Nothing.
No.
You definitely don't say the Kansas.
So was the Bronx tough back then as well? Like compared to Manhattan or Brooklyn, was it tough? Like, was it tough to grow up there?
I don't know what tough was. I think it was all equally the same as far as the boroughs went. I think the Bronx was probably a lot poorer than Manhattan, but it had its neighborhoods. And, back then being poor, I didn't know what poor was because everybody that lived there was just like us.
Right.
Only till I got out did I realize that somebody told me I grew up in the ghetto. And I said, what do you mean the ghettos? That's where I grew up. So I don't think you realize it when you're in it. And as far as being tough, I don't know if it was tough. It just made you aware of the circumstances around you. You try to act like you were tough so nobody would pick on you.
Yeah. It's amazing to me, you're talking about Yankee Stadium and how young you were when you'd sneak into games. It had to be kind of safe if you're 12 years old, going to a Yankee game on an 11 o'clock on a weekday or weekend, it's got to be kind of safe if you're taking a train in with your buddies, going in and not even thinking about being kidnapped or anything like that.
Oh, kidnap. You kid, nobody wanted us. Who would kidnap us? And first of all, we snuck on the train. We just jumped over the turnstile and waited for the train to come. When the door opened, we jump over the turnstile and run into the train.
That's incredible.
I don't think any of our parents thought 1 second about what we were doing or where we were.
Really?
It wasn't the world that we had today. It might have been tougher and rougher, but it was safer, if that makes any sense.
I just try to get my head wrapped around, like, I guess as we watch modern day stars in baseball, we don't really think of it until later, right? How lucky you were to get to see Mantle and those guys and the big time stars of the Yankees past. For you, it was just growing up, and that's who was playing in front of you at the time, right?
Right, exactly.
And so I guess for me, watching George Brett in his prime, I mean, I think back then and how amazing it was for me to get to see somebody like that. And for you, it's some of the legendary guys in baseball history, which is pretty cool.
Well, Paul, just a little piece of history before you go on. That the Yankee Stadium, the new Yankee Stadium today, is across the street from the old Yankee Stadium. Now, the new Yankee Stadium today, when I was a kid, that used to be the Babe Ruth Field, which I don't know what you compare it to it today. AAA in baseball or AA in baseball for kids.
Yeah.
I played 2 or 3 games on that field as a 13-year-old.
Oh, across the street from Yankee Stadium, did you feel like you were like, what did it feel like? You have Yankee
really
Stadium in the background.
It was just the field, but the key is that's the field that Yankee Stadium is built on today.
Unbelievable. That's so cool. That's so cool. So, all right. So, Bob, I had the pleasure of meeting some of your early mentors, and, I want to get into kind of the meat cutting and working with Angie and that whole time frame. Tell me, first of all, how you came to know Angie and how you got your job, at the meat cutting place, at the butcher.
Well, I really don't know how I came to know him. I don't know how I got the job. What I think happened is I was a pretty normal Bronx kid, teetering on getting in trouble and not getting in trouble. And I was probably teetering more towards getting in trouble.
Yeah.
I think my mother went to Angie and said, listen, can you give Bobby, which is what they call me up there, something to do? Let him come in, sweep the floors, do something. And he grabbed me one Saturday in the pool room and said, I want you to come to the meat market Monday afternoon, be there at 3 o'clock after you get out of school. And that's when it started. I went to work that Monday, and I stayed there for 3 years. One of the best 3 years of my life.
Your first day there, did you at one point, the first day or the first week, did you go, oh my God, this sucks. This is going to be hard. I don't know if I can do this. Or if I want to do this, I want to be with my friends out on the street doing something else.
No, not really, because I loved watching Angie work. I loved how he communicated with people, how good he was at what he did, and how he helped people. I saw that right away. He was just a great man.
Really? So everybody in the neighborhood would come in to get their meat, right?
Yes.
And tell me some of the stories about how he would heavy hand the scale a little bit, or some of the tricks. I love those stories.
I don't believe I told you this much stuff, Paul. But anyway, back in the day, you had scales, and Angie taught me, and it wasn't the first week. It was probably 3 months into it, because he didn't let me touch anything. All I could do was clean.
That's it.
We had the damn cleanest meat market you had ever seen. But he would tell me how if you asked for 1.5 pounds of ground beef, I would give you 1 pound and 6 ounces. Charge you for 1.5 pounds, but give you 1 pound and 6 ounces. If you want a pound of bologna, it's same thing, 15 ounces of bologna. He measured profit by those ounces. Later on, I'm going to say this, it may not make sense to people. But later on, when I learned how to start boning meat, they had fat cans, and so you would have excess fat, and you drop it into the can. He would come by twice a day, and he would look into that can to see if he could see any red meat on that white fat. And if he did, I had hell to pay.
Really? You
Yeah.
had
Oh
to be
yeah.
that precise. You had to be that precise with the knives.
That was profit. That was his profit. And he watched every penny coming in, every penny going out, and that was part of it. And that back in those days, he sold it. There would be a fat truck that would come by and pick up all the fat. I think they made soap out of it. I have no idea what they did with it after they got it. I always wondered why were they ever picking it up, but they did.
Unbelievable. So would trucks show up with full cows, full pigs?
No, they came in with what they call hindquarters and forequarters.
Okay.
So a cow would be cut up in fours in the frozen truck, and then you'd go out to the street. The driver would put it on your shoulder. And remember, I was 13 or 14, man.
Yeah.
And I'd carry this in. I learned how to carry it in, how to hang it on a hook, and
so there was a specific technique you had to learn to be able to carry it in, wasn't there?
Oh, yes.
A way to do it.
Yep.
That's crazy. And then how long did it take you to learn how to use the tools and what was what on a cow? How long did that take? Because that seems
probably 6 months to a year.
Yeah.
Because Angie was even when he wasn't teaching, he was teaching every day. He was teaching every moment of every day that I was there by what he did and how he did it and how he would let me come in and watch what he was doing. Never let me do it. Matter of fact, the only customer I ever waited on in the first 18 months there was my mother. As she said, the only one he trusted, he said, if you can screw it up for your family. So
now, there were days though when Angie would disappear though, and he would head to the racetrack, right? I mean,
that's after I was there 2 years.
2 years.
I knew what I was doing. I was 15. And every afternoon at 1 o'clock, he would take off with his two best buddies and they'd go to Aqueduct Racetrack. Then I had the store for myself, and boy, did I think I was a big shot.
So all by yourself, you're running the show.
Yeah, and I was running the show, and I was imitating him. I flirted with every lady that came in. I was polite to every little child that came in. I did exactly the things that he did to people. Exactly, almost the same.
And is that where you got I look at you as fearless, right? You're literally fearless in speaking to people and asking for things. Do you think that is where some of that came from?
Absolutely, no doubt in my mind. That's where it came from. Watching him and how he worked people and how nice he was to people and how gentle he was.
He really was, wasn't he? Because I had the opportunity. You took me to dinner with him one night, and sometimes you could build up a mentor in somebody else's head where I was afraid I was going to put him on too much of a pedestal and then it not live up to it. But he was the kind of person that once I met him, not only did he live up to what you said, he exceeded it by 10 times. You know what I mean? So to be able to meet him and his son in that picturesque Italian place, what was the name of the town we drove up to?
Oh, somewhere up. I don't know. I don't remember.
Yeah. It was somewhere up. It was just outside the city by like 45 minutes. 45 minutes to an hour.
30 minutes. Yeah, 30 minutes.
Yeah, 30 minutes. We passed Aqueduct, and that's how you got on, letting me know that, Angie would go to the horse races and stuff and let you take care of the shop. That was unbelievable. You're working at the meat market for 3 years. What happens then? Do you think about becoming a full-time butcher? What's next?
What I thought about it was having my own store. That was my goal at that time, was having my own store.
Really?
And I worked there for Angie for 3 years, and he said, okay, I've taught you all I'm going to teach you. And he put me in his car. We went over University Avenue in the Bronx, and he brought me into an A&P, which is I don't know if they still have them, but it was the Atlantic Pacific Tea Company. Brought me to the back, and there was a gruff guy back there, and he said, "This is my apprentice, Bob." He said, "I want you to hire him." And I went to work for A&P. Started that the next day. So I was no longer working for Angie. And then I quickly realized that that was not what I wanted to do. These guys were really butchers. These guys they were a different cut. And I didn't think I could do that. And I lasted there about a year, but that was a total eye opener to me.
Really? And so is that when you decided about the military, or when did the military start entering into your thought process?
Well, I'm going to back you up a little bit. When
Good.
I worked at Honeywell, Angie's Market was called Honeywell Meat Market. Directly across the street was a pool room. So when we would get off at 8 o'clock, 7 o'clock, we probably closed the store at 7, and it took an hour and a half to clean it. And this is not a big store, but it took an hour and a half to get it to where he was satisfied with it. And then we go up to the pool room and play 9-ball. And I was playing 9-ball for $1, $2 a game, and I love the aspect of gambling.
So, you wait a minute. You're playing 9-ball, and you're how old?
15, 14, 15.
You're playing 9-ball and you're betting on games, right?
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. But see, Nelda will tell you that I was 14 going on 19. I was 15 going on 22.
Yeah.
So,
did you get pretty good at pool? Were you pretty good?
I won some money doing it.
Did you really?
Oh yeah. A lot 9-ball. A lot of it's luck. You do a lot of combinations, and everyone who plays 9-ball knows that. And so I was doing that. I was playing cards. I was going to Yonkers Raceway. I mean, that's what I lived for, was to go to Angie's Market, Honeywell Meat Market, and to gamble. One of the three.
Those are your two things. That's what you love to do.
That's what I love to do.
So, all right. So you backed me up.
I had a mentor.
Who was your mentor?
Angie. He loved to gamble too, and he'd come up to the pool room if he didn't go straight home after the store closed, and he'd bet on different people who were playing.
Really?
He never bet on me because he said he didn't want to get pissed at me if I lost him any money. So, and he didn't want to get me nervous either, because I would have been nervous had I known he had money on me. I probably would have. I just wouldn't have worked well.
When did craps come into play? Was that later in life, or is that about that time too? Did you ever play like street craps?
I'll tell a quick story here. I had a cousin, Donnie. And Donnie and I, this is one of my gambling stories. Donnie and I were playing cards one day. Our mothers gave us a roll of pennies, so we were playing for pennies. After an hour and a half, I won all of his pennies. So he said, "Bobby, loan me 20 cents. So I cut out 20 pennies and I gave it to him. Hour and a half later, he won all the money back, and plus paid me the 20 penny and won that back. And I said, "Donnie, loan me 20 cents. He said, I don't loan money to people I gamble with." That to me was a big lesson. Anyway, it was funny to me at the time. It wasn't funny at the time, but I think
it was a lesson though.
Yeah.
It was a great lesson. All right, so you backed me up to the pool hall. I forgot about that time period, and I'm glad you did that. So is this when you were going to is it DeWitt Clinton? What's the name of the school that you were at?
Well, I graduated from junior high school 44.
Junior high school 44.
Yeah, and then that was the 9th grade. I made it through the 9th grade, and we're going to go to DeWitt Clinton High School, which was an all-boys school. At this time, I really had zero intentions about going to school. I could play hooky, I could go to work, I could gamble in the pool room, and that's what I did. So, unfortunately, it's something I would never advise my family. I never went to school after the 9th grade.
That's what makes
so DeWitt Clinton, I went there for 5 days, didn't like it, and just never went back.
Didn't you say that was a massive school, though? Like, it was a really big school.
It was an all-boys school. Back then, I think it was 7,000 boys in one school.
7,000 kids in one school.
One school, one high school.
That is unbelievable.
Today it's a co-ed school. I don't know how big it is today.
It's still standing. It's still there. It's still a
Oh, yeah.
school.
Yeah.
Really. Unbelievable. So, you decided not to go to school. Is that when you decided on the military route, or did you work at the A&P then? And then,
No, I was only, when I decided not to go to school, I just turned 15.
oh, just turned 15.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
You were at Honeywell.
then I went to A&P, and then there was a local meat market called Peter Stuyvesant who had a counter. And that's what I liked. I liked people coming in and saying, I want 2 pounds of this or 3 pounds of that. And I could talk to them and cut up jokes. And that's the kind of service that I wanted to do.
Yeah. Yeah. You liked the interaction with the people.
Right.
You liked the flirting with the ladies. You liked getting to know the guys in the neighborhood.
Exactly.
And I once again, I'm romanticizing what it was like to live in the Bronx back then. I bet some people they probably had, they couldn't pay until payday. So would Angie just keep notes of who owed what and that kind of stuff? Or did you play cash on the barrel every time?
Oh, no. Angie had a book. And when somebody would come in and say, Angie, I can't afford it, he just write up whatever it was, $1.80, $2.80, $5.60. And then a week or two later, when their husbands got paid, and it was only women came into the shop, no men. Only
Really?
women. Oh, yeah. That's why he was the biggest flirter I ever knew. He flirted with every single one of them. But they loved him, and he loved them, so he kept a book of what they owed. And I don't think he ever lost a penny. I think every single one of them paid him back when they could.
Unbelievable. That's the kind of things that I romanticize on and think back, because you talk about Joe Pesci being from your neighborhood and, other,
Wait a minute. It's Joe Pesci.
Joe Pesci.
Pesci. Yeah.
I love that. Because there's so many characters that came from the Bronx. I mean, you are melded into that fabric. It's like a big quilt of just different types of personalities that are big and bold. And I just love, and I think that's quintessential Bob Wilson right there.
One of the bigger names coming out of the Bronx was a guy named Dion DiMucci, Dion and the Belmonts.
That's the name I was trying to think. I kept thinking of the Shandels or something. I couldn't think of the name that you were playing them you maybe played on my iPhone, right? When we were driving through I could not think of that name.
Dion and the Belmonts.
Do you still listen to Dion and the Belmonts to this day?
Sure, and so do you. You probably just don't know when you hear them.
Right. All right. So, so during that time, did you always live at home, or did you move around in the Bronx? What was like living at home with your mom and dad through that?
Well, I'll cut through that and say I moved out when I was 15.
See, that's unbelievable. Can you imagine Kevin and Carrie moving out at 15?
I wasn't sure they were going to move out when they were 22.
Unbelievable. So A&P, then you went to Peterson's, did you say? What was the name of it?
Peter Stuyvesant.
Peter Stuyvesant.
Which was in a new neighborhood that my mother moved to. So I worked there for about 3 years. I moved into a boarding house, which was 2 blocks from Fordham University. And I rented a room. I think it was $15 a month. It was on the top floor of this 4-story house. Shared a bathroom with 2 other guys. And I stayed there for 3 until I joined the Marine Corps.
Really?
Ian went to Yonkers Raceway, Roosevelt Raceway, Aqueduct Raceway. Don't leave the raceways out. I was there all the time.
All right, quick. Let's dive into that. I want to talk about that for 2 minutes. How did you know what ponies to bet on?
Angie taught me how to read the program.
Really?
Yeah. But when you're betting your own money, you learn real quick what to do.
And so how often would you go? Would you go once a week, twice a week? How often would you go?
Probably 3, maybe 4 if I was doing good in the first 3. And then I was always happy to stop by and give my mother money. And then she knew where I got it from. She knew I was at the racetrack.
Really?
Yeah.
So would you go with the same few guys? Did you have a bunch of friends that would all go together? Would you go by yourself? Like who would you go to the track with?
It didn't matter. I go by myself if I had to. Yeah, if I went with guys, I didn't even know where they were there. I was concentrating on how to win.
Rain or shine, you would go.
Oh yeah, if it was open, we went. I went.
That's phenomenal. So for you, military life probably, I mean, you just lived with some guys. Tell me about joining the Marine Corps. What made you do it? And then where you got stationed, and we'll go from there.
Well, Vietnam was going on then. It was 1967. I can't say I was a real patriotic guy. I knew what Vietnam was, and I knew guys that I knew had gone enlisted and went over. So I was 19 and I wasn't going anywhere. So I felt that's the thing to do. So I went to Fordham Road and I joined the Marine Corps. I joined on September 21st. I left New York on September 23rd.
Had you ever been outside of New York?
Never.
Never been outside of New York.
Oh, I went to a place in Jersey called Greenwood Lakes, which is a friend of mine, Tom Haas, is from.
That doesn't count.
Yeah. Yeah, that's as far as I gotten.
Really?
Yeah.
All right. So did you get on a bus? Did you get on a plane? How did you end up at boot camp? And where did you get stationed? Where was your boot camp?
Well, when you join the Marine Corps, you either go to PI, Paris Island, or you're a Hollywood Marine and you go out to California.
Right.
Being from the north part of the country, we were going to Paris Island. Took a local train down to Penn Station, got on a train, met the Marine Corps instructor there, whoever he was. There was about 15 of us. He swore us in on the platform in the train station. Got on the train. We went from there through Washington, pick up some more recruits. From Washington, we went to somewhere in South Carolina where they put us on a bus. Now, I'm telling this story to prepare for a story later on. When we got on the bus, there was 2 Greyhound buses, and we were driving towards the base, towards Paris Island, and all I could see was these beautiful trees, and I could see some homes out into the distance. Now, that was just so foreign to me, I didn't even know what I was looking at, but I knew it was beautiful. And I said, this is probably going to really be a pretty good deal. So we got to PI. It was around 6 a.m, and this meanest looking guy I've ever seen in my life got on the bus and said, I'm going to watch my language. I don't know who's going to listen to this. You got 30 seconds to get off, to swallow your cigarette, spit out your gum, and get off this bus. So I thought right then, oh boy, I made a mistake. So I jumped off the bus, did what everybody else did, got on the footsteps out there. And then for the next 9 weeks, I kept saying to God, please get me out of here. Please get me out of here.
Over my years of travel, and when I lived in Los Angeles, and it just didn't have to be there. I can't tell you how many flights I've taken where kids are heading off to boot camp, right? They're meeting in the airport and meeting each other for the first time. Some of the guys that are probably end up being like their brothers, but it's funny to watch the level of braggadocio at first, right? And the chest bumping and the machoism. And then as the plane gets closer and closer towards landing to where they're going to be going to boot camp, they get real quiet, right? They start to get really quiet. They start to get really introspective. And you can see basically they are starting to shit themselves because they are like, what am I about to get into? So did you have that oh shit moment when you were heading down on the train to Paris Island?
I had it as soon as that DI got on the bus.
Yeah.
And it was really an oh shit moment. It was just, what have I done?
And when they shaved your head, when they put, I mean, is it like the movies? Or like pull you into it like a line into a barber and they shave your head and then like,
Absolutely.
and then they
Absolutely.
give you your stuff. And then it's like, do they actually teach you like, see, I'm so foreign to this. Do they teach you how to make your damn bed? Like, do they teach you all that and how to iron? Because my buddy, I had a good friend, Miguel Bustamante, that went off to the Marine Corps, and I would iron his
Oh,
stuff for him.
They must tore his name up, Miguel.
Oh, destroyed him.
Oh.
Destroyed him. So Miguel goes off to the Marine Corps not doing anything, and he came back. That guy could use an iron like somebody I'd never seen in my life. Like, I thought I was good at using an iron, but that guy could press pants, shirts, whatever that anybody I'd ever seen in my life. So do they teach you that shit right away? Is that?
Well, they taught you how to make your rack right away. And they spent more time telling you how to make love to your rifle than anything else. And just between you and me, Paul, I was called a brown-eyed Caucasian prostitute.
Why were you called that?
That was the favorite name that the DI called me. Get up here, you damn brown-eyed Caucasian prostitute. And I knew they were talking to me. I ran up there.
So your first night laying in the rack, right? What are you thinking to yourself? Are you thinking, what the hell did I do? Get me back to New York? Or what were you thinking?
Same thing I did when he came on the bus. I said, oh, God, what have I done? And please get me out of here.
Now, so you're there in boot camp for 9 weeks, right? And
73 days.
Okay. So you're there 9 weeks, you're dying to get out. And then do they tell you when you're done, here's where you're going, here's where you got to go? And then where did they ship you off to?
I went to Camp Lejeune, North Carolina.
I did not know that. I did not know that.
Yeah.
All right. Talk about that a little bit.
Oh, that was just, that's when they started treating us, not kindly, but they started treating us okay.
Not subhuman, but kind of human.
I never got called a brown-eyed Caucasian prostitute again after I left Paris Island. You had a rank, even if I was a private or a PFC, I don't even remember what I was. But they treated you with respect, and they were there to teach you how to fight. That's when I found out that I grew up in a ghetto, and this instructor said, "Where are you from, Bobby?" Or whatever, private. And I said, "I'm from the Southeast Bronx." He said, "Man, that's the ghetto." And then nobody had ever told me that before. And I said, "No, it's not the ghetto. It's where I grew up." But anyway, that's what happened then. So advanced infantry training was, I think, 6 weeks. And that was in preparation to go to Vietnam.
Really?
Yeah.
So in the back of your mind, are you starting to learn more and more? Like, are you hearing stories out of Vietnam, learning more and more what it's all about? And what's your nervous level? I don't know quite how to word that, but what's going through your mind as you're learning these things? Are you thinking, I might need to use this life and death situation in Vietnam soon? Or they got you so geeked up, you're ready to go just whip some ass? Like, what's the thought process of that? I've always wondered.
That is exactly what they do. You're so psyched up. You think you're invincible. And you love your country and you're ready to go defend it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, we're all like that, every one of us. I mean, there were probably some fears.
Yeah.
And I'm sure there were. And here I am talking now, and I never went. So there were fears that I probably had, and I probably dismissed them. And I sure the hell didn't want the guy next to me to know that I was afraid of it. So, and he was the same way with me.
All right. So you're there how long in Camp Lejeune, did you say?
I think it was 6 or 7 weeks.
Okay. You're there 6 or 7 weeks, and then at the end, you're going to get told where to go. You're going to get orders told where to go. What were your orders out of Camp Lejeune? Where'd you go next?
Well, there wasn't any doubt in our minds that we were all going to Vietnam. We had gotten the shots.
Yeah.
We did all the paperwork to go. We signed over the life insurance. We did everything we had to do before we went to Vietnam. So the day of graduation, they handed out orders, and there were 80 people in a platoon.
Yeah.
Now, I didn't know that we had one 17-year-old that was in there. So when they went down the orders, everybody got the orders, and 17-year-old went to a base in Georgia. And me being Wilson, my best man in my wedding was a guy named Lou Walker. Walker got his orders, and I got mine. When we opened them up, it said NASS MILL Tennessee. Now, to show you how stupid we were, we looked at each other and said, "Where is this?" Because everybody kept saying they had something in San Francisco. Where is this in San Francisco? Where is this in Vietnam? So we went up to the lieutenant, asked him, and he told, "Get your dumbasses out of here. You're going to Millington, Tennessee." And we both said, "Tennessee?" Now, the only thing I know about Tennessee, Sergeant, is it's orange on a Monopoly board.
Were you disappointed? Were you disappointed, or
I was devastated?
You were.
Oh yeah. I joined the Marine Corps to go to Tennessee.
Right.
But in retrospect, now it's one of those times where God comes into your life and does things that you don't know.
Yeah, absolutely. What year was that you went to Millington? Would that be 70, 71, or 69? 69. Okay. 1 year before I was born.
Thanks.
All right. So you head to Millington, Tennessee. Did you take a bus from Camp Lejeune to Millington?
Everybody got leave. Got 21 days leave because you're going over to Vietnam. And
yeah.
I and Lou and everybody else, we got the 21 days too.
Where'd you go?
Well, I went to the only place I knew, back to the Bronx.
Did you go to the horse track?
Not as much. I went to more clubs and
yeah. And you went back in kick-ass shape. You're probably feeling pretty good about yourself.
Just like the drill instructor said, we thought we could just do anything we wanted to do, and there was nobody that could, stop us. And I found out real quickly how wrong I was.
So you did your 21-day leave, went back to the Bronx, and then how did you get back? How did you get to Millington, Tennessee from there?
Well, they flew us.
Okay.
We had money for a flight, so I flew to Memphis Airport, and there was a bus out there, picked us up and brought us out to base.
And then, all right, so when you got to Millington, what did you do then?
Well, first thing I did is I checked in the wrong uniform. And I had what they call a Mustang for lieutenant. That means that he worked his way up through the enlisted ranks, and he was a hard ass. And he asked me if I knew it was day or nighttime out there. And I said, "Sir, it's daytime." He said, "Well, get your damn right uniform on." So I had to go change. That was the first day I met this lieutenant. And he was my lieutenant for the next 2 years. And we got to be friends, but it was a rough beginning.
Hey, there's one story you forgot to tell that I forgot to ask you about. It has to do with your middle name. And
that's just Nelda says.
This is a great story. I
don't think it's a great story because I don't know if she's right or not, but she says I made it up.
How do you make up your middle name, Bob?
Probably because I thought Robert J. Wilson sounded better than just Robert Wilson.
So did you not have a middle name and you made one up, or you didn't know what your middle name was? Or what?
Well, it's not on my birth certificate, so I must have made it up.
That is so you. That is so you.
That's just one of many things I've made up.
Oh my gosh. All right. So you're in Millington. What's your responsibility there? What did you have to do?
Well, they had they started something new. Guys coming back from Vietnam that were having trouble adjusting. And so they had what they called can't think of the exact word, but it was a barracks where they all were. So we were in charge of trying to, keep them in line. There was 4 of us in a shift. And that's what I did. I did that for a year.
Wow. Okay. So, all right, now we're going to get into.
It was called restriction barracks. I just remembered. Okay.
Restriction barracks. So guys were coming back and Were they telling you stories about what they saw, what they did over there? I mean, what was that like?
Well, perfectly honest, they really didn't like us, and they didn't like me because I had never been,
Yeah.
and I respected that. So I really try to keep my distance and respect them because I had no idea what they had gone through.
Yeah.
I had other friends that had been there that weren't in restriction barracks, and they told me what they went through, and I just tried to be as fair and as good as I could be.
Now, did you ever, being the kind of the hellraiser guy you were, did you ever get in trouble in the Marines at all? Did you ever piss any of your your higher ups off and get your ass chewed at all, or did you mind your p's and q's because you didn't want to get yelled at?
Oh no, I don't even know if enough time has elapsed for me to tell you.
You got to tell a couple stories of getting in trouble in the Marine Corps. You got to.
Well, they all had to do with drinking and fighting in town.
All right, let's hear it.
Oh, just barroom fights that happened, and Lou was the biggest guy I had ever known, so I would just get close to him, and he would protect me.
Really, he was a big guy.
Big guy, probably still is.
Where was he from?
Queens, Long Island, New York.
Oh, he's from Long Island.
Yeah.
Did he make fun of you being from the Bronx, or did he always respect that you were from the tough part of New York?
I don't think he gave a rat about where I was from, and he sure as heck didn't respect me because I was from the Bronx. Could care less.
All right,
I thought he was on the rich part of the city coming from Long Island.
All right, so this takes us. We've started from the Bronx. We got to Camp Lejeune. Now we're in Millington, and now we're going to get to the part of your life where, like, you literally did something right to earn this, and that's how you met Nelda, right?
Yeah.
So there's a couple stories in there that you're probably going to get in trouble for telling out to the public, but we got to flush those out, right? So tell me about how you met Nelda. Go.
Well, I'm afraid that my grandchildren are going to listen to this. Because
this is something that will be on record forever, Bob. Just remember that.
My youngest granddaughter sent out a tweet last night, a message that Papa's going to be doing, what's this called? What's this called? What
Zoom.
Papa's going to be doing a Zoom.
Yeah.
And in the hope they have a family chat, so everybody's commenting back, "What's Papa doing that for? How's he doing that?" And then Kevin sent out, "It's going to be on Fox News," and then that was it. I mean, they all started tweeting back and forth, and it was incredible. So because I know they're all going to listen to this. I met their grandmother, their mother, at a bar called the Long Branch Saloon in Millington, Tennessee.
Now, you met her in Long Branch Saloon. Where was Nelda from?
Well, she's from Walnut, Mississippi, but she was living here at that time.
She's from Walnut, Mississippi.
Mississippi.
We got to get, we're going to do a second version of this podcast someday when we got you and Kevin on, because I'm going to get you guys going back and forth so bad. When Kevin tells the stories about his mom being from Walnut, Mississippi, and you being from the Bronx, and him having a speech impediment until he was 5 because of it, is just the greatest ever. He had
a speech impediment because his sister did all the talking for him.
So you meet her in the Long Branch Saloon. All right. How did you approach her, and how did she take you, a guy from the Bronx that's full of like life, machoism, everything? I mean, how did you land her, I guess is what I'm asking.
Well, we're sitting there with four guys, and when she walked in with her girlfriend, now her girlfriend on a scale of 1 to 10 was probably about a 3. And so when they said, "Look at that girl over there, she's beautiful," and they all wanted to get after her, I said, So I got up and I asked her to dance. So 2 hours later, we were still dancing. And then
really?
Yeah.
All right. So this is the story.
If I sat down, they'd be all over.
All right. So the first time, this is a great one. Tell me about the first time you went to her house to pick her up for a date. Tell me the day surrounding it, and tell me about when you went to knock on the door to ask her to go out.
Well, for those of you who can listen to this from the north, you know that you never heard of a name named Nelda before. Neither had I. It was Mary Catherine, Catherine Mary, Annie, Susan, Deborah, Donna. Those were names from the north. Nelda was not one I ever heard. So after meeting her in the Long Branch Saloon, we were playing softball. There was about 20 of us. We're all Marines. Some were married, some had their girlfriends there, and we were drinking beer like we do. And they said, let's go to Poncho's in Memphis for dinner. So I said, well, I met this girl a couple of weeks ago. Let me call her. So I called her, and I said, Nelda, would you like to go to Poncho's? A bunch of us coming down. And I told her we were out playing softball. And she said, yeah. She told me where she lived. And there were 3 carloads of us going into Memphis, which was really only 25 miles, but it was a trip.
Yeah.
Especially when you've been drinking all the way. So we got to the front of her house, and I was in a white T-shirt and white blue jeans and sneakers, and I did put the beer down in the car, got up, brushed myself off from much.
That's polite of you to put the beer down. Good job.
I put the beer down. I might have handed it to somebody, but I didn't go in with it. And I walked up to her door, and she had a screen door. That's what I had knocked, but I could see her sitting on the couch. So I knocked on the door, and her father, where I didn't see him before, her father came to the door and said, yes. I said, I'm here to pick your daughter up. And he said, which one? And I said, at that second, I forgot her name. And I said, that one right there. She was sitting on the couch. And I could see the anger in his eyes almost went right through me. So she got up and she came and we went out, and the rest is history.
That's a wrap for episode 1, week 1 of the On the Hook podcast. Hope you enjoyed it. Look forward to more podcasts coming out next week. Hope you can join us.